Welcome everyone to today's or this week's edition of Labor Live at 12:05, slightly after 12:05, which is totally okay. And it's the second week of the legislative session, and yet so much is already happening. We're going to be bringing these programs throughout session to keep you updated on how the happenings in Juneau impact Alaska's working families, and we have an incredible guest here today. Heidi Drygas, who is the executive director of the Alaska State Employees Association. Welcome.
Thank you, Alex. Sorry I'm late. It was because I was doing the people's work. I swear. I just came back from the Capitol.
That is always a great excuse around here because the people's work never rests. It never rests. But big issue kind of happening this week that's really impactful to your membership and to public employees across the state is hearing a lot of news articles about a salary study. I was wondering if you could kind of give us, for those who have no clue what a salary study is and maybe why that's important.
Yeah, sure. So about a year and a half ago, the governor included in his budget $1 million to conduct a statewide salary study. And he did this for a lot of reasons, most of which a lot of our viewers and our members know. We are in the midst still of a staffing crisis in the state of Alaska. We have departments, some worse than others, incredibly understaffed. We have our employees overworked. And a lot of the problem is our wages have not kept up with the cost of living and not kept up with the private sector. And legislators know it. The administration suspects it. So the legislature funded that salary study. It went out. And this is something that has been done before. Back in 2009 was the last time a salary study was conducted. And part of the problem was that while the salary was conducted, it was never implemented. So we're still playing catch up. So fast forward, the salary study goes out to bid. A contractor who is very familiar in this field, the Siegel Company, gets the contract and starts doing the work. And to our knowledge, that work was completed in June of 2024. And yet we don't have a salary study yet. So that's the big question. And since then, there have been a couple amendments. It looks like the state wanted some additional information studied. We don't know what that information was, though, because that portion of the amendment to the contract, even though it is a public document, has been redacted. So the governor's office and the Department of Administration have decided to withhold that information from the public. So all of this is going to be part of the House State Affairs hearing today, I believe, and it starts at 3:15 or 3:30. We should make sure we know the time that starts. The Department of Administration is going to be testifying before that committee. That committee is chaired by Representative Ashley Carrick out of Fairbanks. And I think she's going to have a lot of questions for the administration about why they are withholding the study. We did submit an information request to get a copy of the study, and we submitted that request, I should say, in September. And the state just last week responded formally to that request and denied the request. And so now the question is, well, upon what basis can you deny it? This is a public document. This is a study that was conducted by an independent contractor.
Right. Wow. So it seems like we have quite a few issues going on here. We have the salary study, which, if my understanding is correct, it's basically a study that examines how public employees in Alaska are paid comparatively to other public employees in other states, or is it just to the private sector here in Alaska, or both?
I think it's a mix of both. It's a comparison to other public employees within the state, outside of the state, but also looking at the private sector. Because a lot of what we're hearing both. We're hearing, like, just for example, Department of Fish and Game officials have said for some fisheries biologists, the feds are paying 37% more than the biologists that we have in the state. Wildland firefighters, just last year, the governor agreed to a letter of agreement to increase the wages for wildland firefighters by 30%. And that's largely because the feds were paying So the federal government was paying so much more, at least 30% more than we were for firefighters. And so we were losing firefighters to the federal government, but also to private contractors. So the idea of a salary study is to look at your competitors, look at what is the private sector paying for similar jobs? What is the other public sector, whether it's municipal government or state government or federal government, what are they paying for comparable jobs? And one thing that seems to be revealing itself is that state of Alaska employees are underpaid.
Yeah, I mean, it should be obvious to everyone and a no-brainer that if someone's paying 30% more for the same job, how are you gonna keep and retain anyone?
Yeah.
So we have that issue. That sounds very
And then
important.
you layer on top of that the fact that they don't have a great retirement. They have this defined contribution. There's no, state of Alaska employees don't get Social Security benefits, so they have a defined contribution, and it's a couple of these pieces of the puzzle that's creating this staffing crisis in the state of Alaska right now. I think the latest figures are 16%. An average of 16% of state jobs are going unfilled, and that varies from department to department.
That's wild, because that's always been part of the grand bargain is you go to work in the public sector, you might get paid a little bit less compared to the private sector, but you're going to get a retirement security. You're going to be able to retire for your family comfortably, and now both are untrue. So it's just like the perfect storm. So we have that issue of the salary study, but then there's kind of this whole other layer that I'm hearing that public money was spent for a public report that is yet to be shared, and there's been no transparency from Dunleavy's administration on this whole kind of transaction of where this study is.
I think that's right.
Wow.
It's really it's confusing, and it's concerning that the governor's office is withholding this information, and it's not clear that legally they can. So I think today in House State Affairs, there's going to be a lot of questions asked of the Department of Administration officials. I believe Commissioner Paula Vrana will be there, and other Division of Personnel individuals and folks within her leadership at the department. We know that this is public information. This is a contractor doing an independent study, and this isn't the governor's study. This is a study that the state of Alaska funded. The legislature agreed to this funding. So I think the legislature is as eager to get their hands on this information as me as a public employee advocate and my members. They're probably as eager to get it as we are, because at the end of the day, we all want a functioning state service. We want our offices fully staffed. We don't want our members to continue to have to work the jobs. They used to just, some people, they had an office of 7. Now they have an office of 2. The same amount of work is there. In some cases, the work has increased for lots of reasons, and they're still having to do it, and they're still getting paid the same amount that they did when there were 7 people there. It's just really, it should concern, all of us that this is happening right now. And as you can see, as systems crumble, we have a crisis at payroll where we can't pay state employees on time. We have understaffing at the department, the Division of Public Assistance, which is creating a problem to get SNAP benefits out to individuals. I mean, this is having real life consequences for businesses, for individuals, and something's got to change. And that salary study will inform so much about, like, what do we need to do to pay people to attract them to these jobs and then keep them around.
Absolutely. And the timing couldn't be more important. I mean, this week, finance subcommittees are meeting for the first time. So how is a legislature supposed to know, oh yeah, we are giving these departments adequate funding to do their job if they don't even know what funding is needed to actually attract and retain personnel, even outside of all these other layers of the pension and retirement that are just as important. Wow. So how can people?
And then you look at all those budget summaries from all these departments, and all of them, named staffing is one of their biggest problems.
Right.
That, they can't keep up with the demand and to function properly and provide those state services because they don't have the personnel. They don't have the adequate personnel to do it. And then so many of the personnel are new because we're losing folks.
Right.
So we're trying to train new individuals. So it's all happening at once.
Yeah, it almost seems like the administration is willfully putting on a blindfold and taking this information outside of the public discourse because they know maybe that the results of the study probably don't reflect great on,
We can
and
only
we're probably all aware, but it's nice to have, a study to back what we all know to really probably be true. So I know you guys have a petition that you guys have been circulating around about this issue. Is there a way we can, can people still go and sign that, and where can they find that?
Yes, we will. We sent a petition out to our members, just to make sure that they could have their voices heard and reflect their opinion on whether they think this salary study should be released. And the response from our membership was overwhelming. I mean, we were a few days ago, we were up to 1,600 signatures. Wow. And we had only sent that out once. So we are opening that up to other individuals. We'll send out an email with that information. Just to be clear, we're not going to share names with the administration because we know that can be problematic. We've been down that road before. But I think just to be able to show how important this issue is to it's not just public employees. It's not just union members. This is an important issue for Alaskans. It's an important issue for businesses that want a functioning, state government so that they can do their job, so that we can process permits, so that we can, work through lease agreements, so we can have an environment where, business can thrive and families can live. And that's hard to do when you have these backlogs and you're continually in crisis, playing whack-a-mole, trying to get letters of agreement out there to attract folks with bonuses and retention benefits and things like that, when really the answer is you pay people more and you give them a livable retirement, which we don't have.
A simple equation that has simple answers. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join the program. Thanks for catching us up to speed on this very important issue. And we'll make sure we're tuning in at 3:30 to the House State Affairs to kind of get the information on where we're at and how we can get this salary study out to the public.
That's great. And we'll make sure to I know for members who are interested in, sharing their voice or doing what they can, we'll work on getting that information to you guys so we can distribute it to members on how you can get involved and what you can do to help.
Perfect. It's going to take all of us. Well, thanks so much again for joining the program.
Thanks, Alex.
Well, that is it for this edition of Labor Live at 12:05. Tune in next week where we will cover another pressing issue on how it's impacting Alaska's working families. So see you next week.